Okay, so we make a mold out of luan. Luan is a very thin and inexpensive wood. It looks a lot like cedar, if you see it here, but it's extremely thin. It's about a quarter inch, maybe even 3/16. But either way, it's very thin wood, and you can use it to make a mold. You basically just lay it out over the area that you plan to copy, which is going to be this counter right here. So I laid it out over the inseam on the sink here, and I laid it out over the outer seam on the actual counter. This is like our substrate for our counter. It's basically just I think half inch, yeah, it's half inch plywood. So we got a good gap. You need at least an 1/8 inch gap on the side here. And then we made some blocks to put in the back as like a backsplash for the counter. So we're making concrete countertops. These aren't done yet. We still got to make a slurry mix and then rub it into the top of it to make it smooth again after it bubbles when it's done. But you can kind of see what we're gonna have when we're done over there. But here, I just took a jigsaw and cut the hole for our single stem faucet. And then we're gonna have a plumber come in here and set up the plumbing and everything, garbage disposal unit, of course, so that they have a really good stainless steel sink. It's always recommended, if you do buy stainless steel, to get something that's at least 18 gauge. Believe it or not, this one happens to be 16 gauge, which is really good shit. It's usually very expensive to get 16 gauge, but anything like 20, 22 gauge is just too thin. It won't last long, it'll dent, you'll have problems, so don't get that stuff. And then, so we just gotta, pretty much finish with our mold over here. And once was just actually waiting for my glue seam to dry. You take a glue gun and just glue in the inseams of where you're going to have your sink, and you put caulking on the outer edge of the corners. So we're ready now to actually just pull out our template, basically, that I made. And we'll just pop this guy out of here. And then really cool template. Like I said, to make the template, you just use glue and the glue gun. I used 2 spots to hold down the first piece, just so that it didn't move while I made the rest of the template. And just used the hot glue gun to make the rest of the mold form for the template. With the template, excuse me. And the mold form is made out of melamine, which is really good because it's like kind of a fiberboard that has this really cool coating on the outside, so nothing sticks to it. So now the last step, you can see my measurement for where that sink stem is going to go, right at the top over here. We'll have to mirror the sink stem. So however, I set this up, it's going to be mirrored from where the counter is going to lie. So it's basically going to kind of flip over. That's my best way to describe how we're going to flip over the counter when we're done. But we're actually just going to use some PVC pipe here, and we'll put a piece exactly where that counter stem is going to go. Of course, it's not going to be like a 12-inch piece. It's only going to be a couple inches to go exactly as high as this mold form, because later on what I'm going to need to do is, after I pour our concrete to make, like, that's the bathroom countertop that's going to have a sink sitting on it, so you can see the hole for the sink stem. But later on, what we're going to do is we're just going to take a straight edge like this, and we're going to lay it across the whole thing and go at a 45-degree angle and kind of drag it shimmying it back and forth. It's important to shimmy it so that your concrete stays in place. But you shimmy it back and forth across the entire concrete in the mold, and then it'll make the back nice and level. Before I use some other sanding tools to actually perfect the back edge, and then we'll flip it over and we'll put that last layer, like I was just describing, of the slurry mix on the face of it, so that we can make it nice and smooth before we sand it. You can always put silica inside of it, because when you sand it, you can start to see those silica chunks come out. You can put an aggregate. Some people take man-made glass of various colors, smash it up with a hammer, throw it into a light coat in the beginning when they first lay their concrete mix. It's always good to use a concrete mix that is actually made for countertops. You can see that we decided to put silica into the concrete, so that we can polish out some of that silica when we're done, which is kind of clear rock, kind of similar to quartz. It's silicone basically, and believe it or not, that's actually one of the rocks that makes the red rocks red. It's just got a lot of iron in it, which is why it's actually red. But that's part of what the red rocks are made out of here in Denver, Colorado. Anyway, thanks guys for watching my video, and have a great rest of your day, and good luck making countertops.